Okay, another perspective when it comes to the different illicit drugs. And yeah, watching The Queen of the South, which is on Netflix, I really highly suggest it if you can handle some of the gory stuff. I fast forwarded through some of the gory stuff, which I knew I missed some of the script writing, but that's okay because it was pretty gory stuff. But I now understand why the government is part of the landscape when it comes to the distribution of all types of drugs or therapeutics. Okay, it's because you can't stop what people want. People want their escape. Now we have to be able to balance out society so society doesn't kill itself society doesn't kill itself because we have people who don't understand antibiotics. That's why you have the FDA, the CDC, the USDA, the EPA, is to balance out what people want, what we need as far as our society to manufacture goods and services, and how much can the environment as well as the people, how much can they take, okay, or withstand in their area. And so, yeah, I get why we were in Afghanistan. I get why the opium trade was part of the foundation of some of our predecessors from some of the 13 bloodlines. Because there's so many people in our world that want to escape their life, but we don't want to kill the people. We don't want people to die from their escapes. So then how do you give people the opportunity to have their escape without having them kill themselves over it? Well, they have to have their hand in it. Okay? And so that means the sanctioned drugs and the unsanctioned drugs. Well, how is it unsanctioned? How can a government who determines what is sanctioned and unsanctioned be then part of the unsanctioned? Wouldn't that be sanctioned? It's like a conundrum. Well, because, just understanding now, would you want your cocaine cut with something that is so aggressive and will destroy you if you're going to do cocaine? Or do you want your cocaine cut with something that's going to not destroy you? Okay? And so that's why government gets involved on so many aspects of food and drugs, because they have to monitor a balance so that way the people who don't know any better will be relatively safe. And I mean that relatively. And so I get it. And so I know a lot of people out there, demonize the government because of their hands in some of the drug stuff. But I'm telling you, so many people want to escape their life. And so the Mexican cartels know there's a need. The government knows there's a need. There's people in your society that know there's a need, and they all want to cut in somewhere to kind of get the funds and get the money. And I get it. It's lucrative no matter what. When someone is desperate to have some kind of relief, they will pay top dollar. And so when you think about it, I would rather have the government distribute the illicit drugs, because at least I know they're going to make sure that it's going to be done correctly, because the government depends upon the people. They need their worker bees in our society. I'm not condoning doing drugs, absolutely not. But I understand why why there's so much government oversight, and why sometimes it may seem like they're part of all of the drug trade. Hey, whatever. If you choose to do drugs, whatever they are, I hope it's the safest drug you'll ever do. That's why they have Narcan. That's why they have all those different things to help bring somebody out of a drug overdose, because they do value life. But people still choose. People still choose to destroy themselves. If they can slow down the destruction in a person, that's what the government's going to do, is slow down the destruction. However, it's that careful balance. Biotech has brought in so much life in our society because of the monoclonal antibodies that are not necessarily antibody. They're also agonist antibodies, which promote growth. So we've also saved lives with all the therapeutics out there. But what kind of life are you saving? And how many issues a person's going to be dealing with because of the fact, hey, John, because of the fact that they were brought into this world despite what Darwin has said. Okay? Said. But, Darwin says, okay, if you're not strong enough for this environment, you shouldn't live. But then modern medicine has come in and been able to give you a life, even when Darwin said, no, we don't want you to come into this life, but somebody intervened. All right, so, it's a balance. Prohibition did not work for a reason. And so if you try to ban all drugs and ban all alcohol, you'll have a major underground that is not regulated. And when you have an unregulated market, people will pass away. And so then you're like, well, that's too much government. Well, then stop needing so much of that shit. Stop needing your drugs and alcohol. If you don't want so much oversight, be independent. Face your freaking demons. If you're independent from, law enforcement and from the biotech and from, same thing, holistic remedies and allopathic remedies, then you wouldn't need so much government oversight. But it's those that are bitching about the government oversight that need the government oversight. That's the conundrum. So when you're bitching about the vaccines and you're bitching about, the government's hand and oversight in everything, then you're the one that's giving them a reason. So it's such a weird oxymoron. I don't know. It seems like it's just a contradiction in so many ways. But prohibition never worked, because then you had the bootleggers. That's how the mafia became so strong, was because of the bootlegging. The government, when they ban something, will make the black market will make a killing off of whatever the government bans. So then the government has to then kind of regulate it and have their hands in it. So that way the black market isn't then going in there and destroying society. Hey, Emily, thank you. And so that way they can kind of figure out, who is actually creating all the different, alcohols and things, and to make sure that that people aren't going to die from it. Now, there's always somebody that's going to be doing that stuff, whatever. But, if your product is solid and it hasn't been alerted to the ATF of it being dangerous, then you're fine. People make their own wines, people make their own beers, people make their own fermentation like jelly juice. And so, and if it's not antibiotic, if it's probiotic, then, what's the problem? But, there's some point, if you are fermenting alcohol, then there's that. That's why then, the moonshine is regulated. But they do show it on TV. People making unregulated moonshine. But, people still have a choice. Okay? So, I just want you to understand, don't demonize the government. When you think about it, don't demonize the government. I did for a long ass time because I didn't really understand how the world worked. Now I understand how the world works, and I'm like, holy crap. There is nothing that I can actually say anything bad about anyone or anything out there. When you think about it, the government isn't bad. The 13 bloodlines aren't bad. Everyone's made their mistakes. You have a choice now. If you're pissed about government overreach and government oversight, then then you live in a city or a state that's very corrupt. Maybe time you move out, or you are that dependent on the government, and you're pissed that you're that dependent. I'd be pissed too. I was. And so when you're pissed that you're that dependent, you're gonna bite any hand that tries to help you. That's why I'm hands off with the jelly juice. Because I played that game where people were so dependent on me and me giving them a phone call or whatever, that eventually they couldn't handle the healing process, and they bit the hand that basically fed them, so to speak. It gave them an opportunity. And so, yeah, if you don't need so much, then you won't be upset so much, I guess. But that's it. But I want you guys to see that point of view. But again, I'm going to tell you, I don't condone people doing any kind of drugs at all whatsoever. I don't condone really antibiotics. I don't condone the painkillers. Face your demons. I know some people are like, it's so torturous. Why would you want to, have no painkillers and no medicine? Well, if you support it correctly, you're going to have to deal with that shit anyways. Why destroy someone because you don't want them to feel pain? I can get why people get destroyed because they feel pain, because it's never been supported correctly. They've been following the holistic allopathic way. So destruction is always going to be the end result in the holistic allopathic industry. But with the dilly juice, it's a totally different type of pain that you're going to have to deal with regardless. But death should not be the desire, whether it's microcosmic death or macrocosmic death. Okay? And so that's why there's such a conflict with J-Juice and those that still believe people should die, is because Jilly Juice is about life, and sometimes life is painful. But as you move through your predispositions and get over them, it's not as painful when you go through an evolution. It's just fatigue. That's the thing that pisses me off, is that I had all this energy prior to this last COVID. I was down for a couple days, and then I'm like, okay, and now I'm back up again from adrenaline shot, so to speak, because of a troll. They gave me the energy, and bam, I got back on that freaking horse. I'm like, when is this fatigue gonna end? And then yesterday I was just like, whoa. Jason's like, you're being psycho right now. I'm like, well, you just saw an energy boost. And it wasn't even anything from Jilly Juice or anything else. It was the fact that my passion was being challenged by people in my life. By people, not by people in my life, but by somebody that was contacting someone in my life. And so I wanted to make sure that the person in my life was not going to, get mischaracterized or have my information mischaracterized. And they weren't. But I know the power of people out there. And so I really got into that adrenaline mode. And that was the shot that I needed. Okay, so sometimes the universe sends you people in your world to kick you in your ass. Okay? And so to prohibit something is only going to then make the people want it more and then make it more dangerous. And so, yeah, you have to have some centralized government for people who don't know any better. So if I can get you to know better, then you won't need to be falling victim to something that would require government intervention. So it's an interesting dichotomy. It's an interesting conundrum. I don't know. It's crazy. But anyways, you guys have a great day. I'm feeling great. I was writing last night about the 13 bloodlines, and my newfound energy. And I'm like, oh my God, I had a writer's block a little bit. And now my writer's block is gone. So here we go. All right, you guys have a good one. Bye.